Okay, today we're interviewing Jerry Larson and Tim Harper regarding about the OPP and when they started and what the OPP meant to Nipigon. So if you want to go ahead, Jerry, and start.
Well, I spent 25 years at the detachment here. I started in 1971 and I retired in 1996. During that 25 years, I guess I saw several changes. One of the most notable, I guess, would be the communications aspect. When I came here, the cars were dispatched by from the detachment here. There were no radio operators. There were 2 stenographers, 16 constables, I believe, 3 shift supervisors, sergeants, and staff sergeant. For the day shift, one of the stenographers ran the radio and did the dispatching of cars and officers. During the afternoon shift, one of the constables would be on the radio and answering the telephone, and on the midnight shift, the same. Shortly after I got here, probably within 2 to 3 years, they hired 5 radio operators, and the dispatching for Beardmore, Scriber, and Nipigon was done out of our detachment. By the time I left, they were in 1996 is when I left. By the time they left, they were changing over to the central communication system in Thunder Bay, and probably for the last 4 or 5 years that we had the radio dispatch out of Nipigon, the radio operators were basically part-time employees. They were no longer full-time employees because that transition was occurring. That's one of the things I recall.
Well, I came here in March 1974, and Jerry and Joanne Larson were 2 of the first people that I met, and they got me a place to stay, and they really helped me out lots. And I ended up working with Jerry as a constable, a corporal, and a staff sergeant. And but in between there, like you were here 25 years or 26?
25, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how many years I was here in total because I get transferred back here 3 times, and I did 5 years up in, or almost 5 years up in Beardmore. But when I first came here in 74, we had 19 constables, 3 corporals, and a sergeant. And we all had to live here. Beardmore had their own detachment, a 3-man detachment. Red Rock had their own police department. And we also policed Lake Helen, which is Red Rock First Nation, and McDermott, which now is Rocky Bay First Nation. And we also policed Dorian, Hercot, and yeah, it was a pretty busy place back in the day. We had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 licensed establishments downtown here, and the 2 mills. Domtar was booming, Multiply was booming, Bannister Pipelines was booming, Domtar Woodsland was booming. I was had just turned 22 years old, and when I came from a little town down in the Thousand Isles called Gananoque, I found Nipigon a pretty hopping place. There was a lot of money here, and life was good, and it was exciting, and just quite a difference from the way it is today.
Oh yeah, back then Nipigon was booming. Population was large, and we had lots going on.
Yeah, lots.
When Tim mentions booming, in the late 70s, I'd say this was. It would be sometimes from the middle to late 70s when I became a breathalyzer operator. And to show the booming, like we had the pipeline, we had lots of people coming and going. But every year with the breath program, you would get an annual report for the whole province of breath tests done. And I recall one year at the end, we either had 4 more or 4 less than the entire city of Thunder, Bay. Breath test.
Yeah. I was a breath tech too, and I remember that very well.
And if you take the population that we were policing compared to what they were policing, when I say that, you have to also read into the number of officers that would. It's not saying that we had more impaired driving, impaired drivers on the road, but probably just because of the situation with the officers in Thunder Bay, you have to make decisions sometimes on your priorities. And I would think there's a fair number that probability we're getting off, mainly because of that fact. Would you not agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's funny how times change.
Yeah. So the OPP were involved in a band. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Jerry would know. I knew a lot of the band members. They were still here. They were transferring out when I came, and I think I replaced one. I'm not sure which one I replaced. Bob Stevens, was he a corporal when he left? I thought I replaced him.
Okay, yeah, he may have been promoted probably. Bob
Yeah.
Stevens.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. When I came, the band had already been formed, but just shortly before I came, I guess. But they were. I remember Cam McWhirtery. He learned how to play the bagpipes so he could play in the band. I think Paul Lamont had some background with bagpipes.
Albert Rassing, drummer.
Drummer, yes.
Martin DeSilge.
Martin DeSilge, Bob Stevens.
Yeah.
And Bob Stevens said before he came here, he had been on a police force in the Maritimes. I can't remember where.
I didn't know.
But he had several years there before he joined the OPP, and I think he had bagpipe experience too as well. But there was one or two from Thunder Bay in the band, but it was mainly people from Nipigon that had formed the band.
Yeah.
But then they became popular, and they started getting invited to different events, parades, things like
I think
that
I went to the
around.
Rose Bowl in Pasadena one year.
Yeah, Bob Stevens and Paul Lamont, they went down with pipes and drums from Thunder Bay to Pasadena that year, and it was growing, but it was a drain on the detachment every time they got invited somewhere because all of a sudden 5-6 guys are taken out of your detachment, and it was getting, I would say, probably hard to manage for the. So eventually, that's what happened. They decided to take them all down to around the area around Aurelia and Barrie and that, where they could work in different detachments, so it wasn't such a drain. And that, so they slowly did transfer them out, and that's about the time Tim came, I guess.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, they were just transferring them all out.
So then your band dismantled at that point.
Well, they didn't dismantle. They went down south where they got bigger and more popular. We're a little bit too remote here for Southern Ontario's liking, so that's where they built the band up, and it really took off.
So after they transferred out, did the band still come here and play at the festival parade?
I only recall them being here once.
Yeah, I don't recall. Later on they were here once, but
It was later on.
I think they used to do tours in the province, so they try to do a northern tour every few years or something like that, where they might play at more than one detachment. But
It was a big part of OPP history to have the band actually came from Nipigon. It started here. That was pretty significant in our force.
For a small town, eh?
Yep. Yeah.
Surprising what you can accomplish.
and I may be wrong, but I hear now that they aren't even members of the force anymore. The band,
Is that right? Eh?
I'm not sure. I can't say, but
I don't know that much about it anymore. I've been retired too long.
So,
me too.
So during your time with the OPP, what else did the OPP do here in Nipigon? As even like charitable things, kids events, anything like that?
Yeah. When I was involved in the OPP hockey team, we used to do a lot of benefit games, and we used to do the runs for. Isn't that awful? Pia Ray was
Oh,
involved.
yeah,
That organization, and Maria Ray and Roy.
Special Olympics.
Special
Olympics.
Yeah. I'm getting,
Get lost
I'm
for
getting older.
words.
Yeah. Special Olympics. We used to do a lot of fundraising for Special Olympics, and every year we're pretty involved in that. Well, Jerry used to organize a lot of stuff, and the OPP hockey tournaments here, we would donate money to Special Olympics. Sometimes, and I can't remember some of the other. I'm sorry, I just can't remember some of the other beneficiaries of that money. And bicycle rodeos, like Glen Clearwater was always at George O'Neill used to help us out there, and we had always Canadian Tire would donate a prize of a bicycle, and some kid, and there's a lot of prizes. So one of the young kids would be chosen to win this bicycle. And it was, pretty significant back in the day. Lots of fun, and a good experience for the kids to learn about bicycle safety.
And back in those days, the kids were always outside, so
Oh,
getting
yeah.
a bike was fantastic.
Yeah,
What I recall more about the members is the fact that all the members basically lived here.
Yeah.
I don't recall
We had
anybody
to.
living outside of the detachment area, and very few even lived like I was one of the first to even live over in Red Rock. But basically, everybody lived within the detachment area, and most of them were involved in some community activities, like for charities, like
Yeah.
through Kinsman, Legion,
Yeah.
Elks,
yeah,
just about everything.
yeah,
Different areas. Like I remember Mike Carraher was the chair for the Special Olympics,
Yep.
the Handicapped Association. Like everybody was involved. They were doing things, I guess, for charity, but in different organizations. Even music, hockey, coaching, things like that.
yeah. I was coach. Sean
They did
Smith
lots
was a
of those
coach.
things.
There's a lot of OPP coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and soccer and yeah, there was a lot going on.
Curling. It was very give and take too, work wise. Like I remember curling during my lunch hour, but then you'd work at the end of the shift to make up for it, or you'd work somewhere else to make up for it. But we were very. I remember it being very flexible. But you'd cover for each other.
Yeah.
It was a good work environment.
Yeah, it sure was.
That's what I'd say. And
Well, you organized the
Right.
the curling bonspiel every year. You organized the golf tournament every year. You're a busy boy.
yeah, but like
Yeah.
the whole detachment pulled together.
Right, because you were quite involved with the town outside work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a good town to be involved in. There was a lot of, still back in the day when I come, there's still a lot of World War II veterans alive here, and Korean War veterans, and the Legion was a happening place. And there's,
Fort
I've been a
Ours.
Legion member for 47 years. And one other interesting fact: when I joined the OPP in March 1974, I was the last class of all male officers. There were no female officers. I was the last class. So it was after I came here, then we started getting
Females.
our females.
I forgot about that.
I think
Yeah.
was Robin Oberg our first female here?
Yes.
I think she was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't have a female in Nipigon for quite a while.
No.
Even after that, Thunder Bay had the first one in our district.
Yeah, I remember
And then-
Robin starting here.
And that was a big thing back in the day to have a female police officer. So we've come a long way since then.
Okay, anything else we can add to what the OPT meant to Nipigon? And
Well, it was just an important part of this community. Like there wasn't anything that as citizens living here that we weren't involved in, and to me, it made it. We were what you call a duration posting in the OPP. You had to come here for a minimum of 5 years, and after that, you could put in and leave. But a lot of people like Jerry and myself, Tim Robbins is another guy, we still live here because it's a great place to live. And, well, I mean, Jerry's older now and he's just moved next door to Thunder Bay, but
And I know back in the day, Red Rock had their own policing, and Nipigon's never had their own. They always had OPP.
Yes.
They never did have their own detachment, to say as Nipigon Police.
you know, not that I know of.
I believe they did, because
Okay.
the old, the first police station, I think, is the old bank, the building in behind the old bank.
I
And
didn't
there
know
are
that.
pictures of that as a jail, I know.
Okay. But that'd be back in the days of Pine Portage and
Could be.
in the 40s?
But I think they did. It could have been OPP. But I know there is that would be the fourth, I guess, police station. Yeah,
'cause I know
but it was
there's
a little building right in behind the bank there.
There's a heritage sign up that was the jail at one time. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. That I wasn't aware of that.
I think the other thing too, and that slowly began changing towards the end of my career there, but all the officers basically were from elsewhere. They came here, and I think the families that you were working with became your family because you were away from your real family.
Mm-hmm.
And like I came from the Kenora area originally. I had a brother, mind you, in Terrace Bay, but as far as being in Nipigon, the other detachment members were more of a family to me than my own family because
Yeah.
you may see them once a year or twice a year visiting. I think Tim would say the same. And I think you find when your family, when you move far away, yeah, they all want to see your place, but they don't come yearly after that.
Yeah. Well, I was one of the lucky ones. I married a girl from Nipigon. Yeah. She was a radio operator for the OPP back in the day. And her name was Orion Traintinger at the time. And they lived right across the highway from the OPP office. And I still remember the first day I started the OPP, or came into the office here, Clifford Flewelling was our sergeant, fine guy, World War II veteran. And he took me over to the window of the detachment, and he says, "You see that fellow across the street? There's an older man in a driveway where they're shoveling snow." And he told me, he says, "If you work half as hard at your OPP career as that man does," he says, "you'll be just fine." And little did I know that man over there was going to be my father-in-law someday. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Okay, I'd like to thank the gentlemen for offering to do the interview, and it was very informative of what the OPP did in Nipigon. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.